They tell you healing will make you softer, kinder, more peaceful, and you believe it, because honestly, that sounds like the ending you deserve. But Carl Jung discovered something that destroys that fantasy. A healed empath doesn't become a nicer version of themselves. They become dangerous. Not dangerous to innocent people. Not cruel. Not cold. But dangerous in a way that scares anyone who ever tried to use them. Because when an empath integrates their shadow and crosses that invisible line from wounded healer to psychological weapon, they don't just improve, they become untouchable. And that's exactly what makes manipulators lose sleep. Before we talk about what a healed empath becomes, we have to be honest about what the unhealed empath was. Jung described this person as an emotional shock absorber. Someone built to take impact after impact, cushioning everyone else from the force of life while slowly destroying themselves in the process. If you're an empath, you already know what that feels like. You've spent years absorbing everyone's emotional chaos, your alcoholic father's rage, your mother's silent depression, your partner's infidelity that you could feel before you ever saw proof, your co-worker's jealousy disguised as concern. You absorbed it all, not because you wanted to, because your nervous system was built to pick up every frequency within reach. Jung called this unconscious participation. You weren't just feeling your own emotions, you were carrying the entire unconscious weight of everyone around you. Their shadows, their denied pain, their unprocessed trauma. It poured into you like you were some cosmic dumping ground for human suffering. And the worst part wasn't the pain. The worst part was you thought this was your purpose. You believed your sensitivity meant you were supposed to fix everyone, save everyone, hold space for everyone. You built your identity around being the one who can handle it, the therapist friend, the emotional translator, the one who always understood. But here's what nobody told you. While you were busy absorbing everyone else's darkness, you were ignoring your own. You had no boundaries because boundaries felt cruel. You had no limits because limits felt selfish. You said yes when you meant no. You smiled when you wanted to scream. You stayed when every cell in your body begged you to run. And slowly, so slowly, you didn't even notice what was happening. You disappeared. The real you got buried under layers and layers of other people's unprocessed emotions. Jung saw this pattern again and again. Empaths came to him not because they were crazy, but because they were drowning in a sea of consciousness that wasn't even theirs. Now consider a case profile Jung documented in his clinical notes, what we'd call a composite example, based on patterns he observed across many patients. An individual representing what Jung would categorize as the introverted, intuitive type walks into rooms and instantly senses the psychological atmosphere. Who's lying? Who's in pain? Who harbors resentments? But the gift doesn't bring peace. It brings exhaustion. They can't do small talk because they see through every facade. They can't maintain friendships because people feel exposed around them. And Jung realized something important. He wasn't treating pathology. He was witnessing what happens when the unconscious becomes too conscious, when perception becomes too differentiated for normal social survival. This is the empath's dilemma. The ability to see everything becomes the very thing that isolates you from everyone. But then something happens, something that changes everything. Jung called it the breaking point, but that phrase doesn't capture what it really is. It's not a breakdown. It's a breakthrough disguised as destruction, and most of the time, it arrives as betrayal, not the casual kind. Not the, they forgot my birthday kind. The kind that rips the veil off your reality. The person you trusted most, the one you protected, the one you absorbed pain for, reveals themselves. Maybe you discover they've been lying for years. Maybe you watch them destroy you while smiling to your face. Maybe you realize they never saw you as a person, only as a resource, and in that moment, something inside you doesn't break. It awakens, because here's what Jung discovered, that changes how you see this transformation forever. That breaking point isn't when the empath loses their mind, it's when they finally start trusting it. You see, all those years you spent absorbing everyone's emotions, you were doing something else too. You were studying, cataloging, mapping human behavior with the precision of a master strategist. Every micro-expression, every tonal shift, every contradiction between someone's words and their energy. You saw it. You knew it. You just didn't use it. You doubted yourself. You told yourself you were overthinking. You called your perception too sensitive. But the moment of awakening doesn't come with fireworks. It arrives as cold clarity. The empath who spent decades second-guessing their intuition suddenly stops second-guessing. The internal knowing you suppressed to keep the peace becomes louder than any external voice trying to distort reality. And this is where the healed empath begins to emerge as what Jung called psychologically complete. They integrate their shadow, and their shadow isn't evil. It's every quality you were trained to suppress. Your intelligence, your rage, your ability to say no, your willingness to let people fail, your capacity to walk away without explanation, your talent for seeing manipulation in real time. When these aspects integrate, when you finally own every part of yourself, 3 distinct stages unfold. And the first one is where everything changes. Stage 1, the mirror effect. The healed empath stops absorbing people's emotions and starts reflecting them back. They're not a sponge anymore. They're a mirror. And not the kind that lies to keep you comfortable. The kind that shows you exactly what you are. Let's look at how the mirror effect actually works. Imagine someone who's spent years using empaths like emotional ATMs. They project insecurity. You absorb it. They say something cruel. You take responsibility. They guilt trip, gaslight, and subtly undermine. And it always works. Because you doubt yourself. Because you feel bad. Because you carry what was never yours. Then they meet a healed empath. And suddenly, nothing works. They try the same tactics. The concern-wrapped insult. The carefully worded guilt. The story designed to make you feel responsible for their feelings. And instead of absorbing it, instead of apologizing or explaining or shrinking, the healed empath just looks at them, really looks at them. And in that moment, the manipulator feels something unfamiliar: exposure. Because the healed empath isn't reacting emotionally. They aren't defending. They aren't attacking. They're simply reflecting back exactly what's there. Not the image the manipulator wants to project. The real one. The insecurity, the desperation, the hunger for control. And that's terrifying. Not because the healed empath is judging them, but because they aren't. There's no emotional hook to grab onto. No guilt to weaponize. No confusion to exploit. Just clarity. So the unconscious person does the only thing they know how to do when faced with their own reflection. They attack the mirror. They say you've changed. You're cold. You're selfish. You're not who you used to be. You're too sensitive, or suddenly not sensitive enough. And the healed empath just smiles. Not smugly, not cruelly, but knowingly, because they've seen this pattern 1,000 times. The mirror effect destroys manipulators because it removes their greatest weapon, your willingness to doubt your own perception. The healed empath trusts what they see, and that unshakable knowing is kryptonite to anyone trying to distort reality. Jung observed this again and again. When empaths stopped second-guessing themselves, Gaslighting stopped working. Power evaporated the moment the target no longer questioned their own experience. Guilt manipulation failed when the empath stopped carrying shame that wasn't theirs. That's stage 1. Stage 2 is where people really get confused. Selective empathy. Most people assume healing means one of two extremes. Either you stay open to everyone, or you shut down completely. But that's not what happens. What happens is far more precise. The unhealed empath was an open door. Anyone could walk through. Any emotion, any crisis, any demand. The door was always open because closing it felt wrong. The healed empath turns that door into something else entirely. A threshold with a guardian. And that guardian is ruthless about one thing: energy. Selective empathy doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start choosing. You're still capable of profound compassion. You can still feel deeply. You can still hold space for pain. But now, you decide who gets access. You choose which conversations matter, which relationships are reciprocal, which crises are actually yours to engage with. And you make those choices without guilt, without explanation, without the need to be understood. To people who show integrity, who respect boundaries, who do their own inner work, the healed empath becomes an oasis. Safe, grounded, deeply present. But to manipulators, energy vampires, and people who refuse responsibility for their own lives, the healed empath becomes a fortress, unmoved by fake tears, unbothered by rage meant to control, unimpressed by sob stories designed to extract sympathy. This is the shift from nice to kind. Nice avoids conflict. Nice smooths things over. Nice keeps everyone comfortable at your expense. Kind does what's actually helpful, even when it's uncomfortable. The healed empath stops being nice, but they become profoundly kind. Kind enough to let people face the consequences of their choices. Kind enough to refuse to enable dysfunction. Kind enough to say no without apology. And here's what makes selective empathy so powerful. It isn't based on judgment, it's based on pattern recognition. You've seen how certain personality types operate. You know the trajectory of relationships built on manipulation. You can predict outcomes because you've watched the same dynamics play out over and over again. You don't need months to figure out if someone is genuine. You know within a few conversations, not through mysticism, through data, through the unconscious database you've been building your entire life. Which brings us to stage 3, the stage that would terrify most people if they truly understood it. Strategic omniscience. Think about what happens when you spend years in survival mode. When your emotional safety depends on reading the room correctly. When missing a subtle shift in tone means chaos. When you had to become an expert in human behavior just to survive your own environment. Your brain doesn't just develop empathy, it develops a database. Jung noticed this repeatedly. His empath patients could predict behavioral outcomes with unsettling accuracy. Not because they were fortune tellers, but because they'd spent decades unconsciously running pattern recognition software more advanced than most people ever develop. Every interaction was data. Every conversation was information. Every relationship was a case study. The unhealed empath collected all this data, but felt guilty about using it. They told themselves they were being judgmental. They overrode their instincts in the name of compassion. They ignored warning signals because doing so felt spiritual. The healed empath doesn't do that anymore. They trust the database. When every cell in their body says something is off, they don't need proof. They don't need evidence. They already know, and they act accordingly. You see the game before it starts. You recognize the setup. You know who's lying, who's manipulating, who's about to cross a boundary. Not because you're psychic, because you've seen this exact pattern 100 times before. And now, you finally trust what you see. This is where the transformation reaches its most misunderstood phase, because the healed empath doesn't just see manipulation. They understand it completely. They know exactly how it works, which buttons to press, which wounds to touch, which fears to activate. They have the blueprint, they have the skill, they have the psychological leverage. They could manipulate people more efficiently than the narcissist ever could. And that's what makes this stage truly dangerous. Jung spent years trying to understand why some empaths, once awakened, became destructive while others became deeply ethical. What separated the wise from the weaponized wasn't sensitivity or intelligence, it was conscious choice. The healed empath has the capacity for manipulation, but chooses not to use it destructively. Not because they're weak, because they're strong enough to restrain themselves. It's easy to be good when you lack the power to do harm. It takes an entirely different level of psychological development to have the capacity for harm and choose truth instead. Jung called this moral courage. This is where individuation is completed. The healed empath becomes psychologically whole. They've integrated both light and shadow. They are capable of softness and steel, compassion and precision, gentleness and decisive withdrawal. They are no longer split. And this wholeness creates a strange and powerful effect in their environment. Everything reorganizes. Family systems that depended on your self-sacrifice begin to collapse. Not because you're attacking them, but because you stop being the load-bearing wall, the one who absorbed tension, the one who smoothed things over, the one who kept the dysfunction running. When you step back, the system has to reveal itself. Your alcoholic father can no longer spiral while you clean up the emotional aftermath. Your codependent parent can no longer use you as their therapist while refusing real help. Your narcissistic ex can no longer control you through guilt about the past. Your energy vampire friend can no longer dump their endless crisis into your lap. The empath who enabled all of this is gone. In their place stands someone who loves themselves more than they love keeping the peace. And this forces a choice in everyone around you. Some people rise. They see your boundaries and feel inspired. They do their own inner work. They respect your clarity. These relationships deepen and become more real than ever before. Others reveal themselves. They escalate. They rage. They play the victim. They recruit others to frame you as the problem. Because if you're the problem, they don't have to change. And here's where the healed empath's real power shows. They don't defend. They don't explain. They don't argue their worth. They observe. They watch people reveal themselves through their reactions, and they make decisions accordingly. Not with anger, not with bitterness, with clarity. This is what Jung meant by conscious participation. You engage with reality as it is, not as you wish it were. You stop loving potential. You stop hoping people will change. You choose relationships based on who people are, not who they could be. And because of that, something unexpected happens. You become capable of profound love, not because you cling, but because you're no longer afraid of loss. You can let go of anyone who doesn't align with your truth, and that freedom makes you magnetic to healthy people and repulsive to toxic ones. Jung called this psychological alchemy. The wounded healer transforms into the wise one, not someone who absorbs pain, but someone who models integration, someone who shows, through their way of being, that it's possible to feel deeply without self-erasure, to see darkness without being consumed, to be powerful without becoming cruel. This is the final truth Jung uncovered. Your sensitivity was never a weakness. It was raw material. Every betrayal was data. Every heartbreak was training. Every moment of overwhelm was refining your perception. You weren't being punished. You were being forged. The goal was never to become less sensitive. It was to become consciously sensitive, to combine empathy with discernment, compassion with boundaries, feeling with self-trust. This is individuation, not perfection, not invulnerability. Wholeness, owning every part of yourself, the light and the shadow, the softness and the steel, the ability to love deeply and the ability to walk away without hesitation. You are not too much for this world. You are exactly what psychological evolution requires. A person who can hold space for darkness without drowning, who can love without losing themselves, who can see through illusion and still choose integrity. The unhealed empath asks, "Why is this happening to me?" The healed empath knows, it happened to make you sovereign. You were never meant to save everyone. You were meant to save yourself, and in doing so, become a living example of integrated empathy. Not martyrdom, not endless self-sacrifice, conscious choice, strategic compassion, empathy with self-respect. Healing doesn't take you back to who you were before the pain. That version of you was unconscious. The healed version is far more powerful. You're awake, integrated, unmovable in your knowing, untouchable to anyone playing unconscious games. The healed empath doesn't argue, doesn't prove, doesn't chase closure. They see the game, and they quietly walk away. No drama, no explanation. Just gone, not because they're cold, but because they finally value their peace. This is what a healed empath actually becomes. Not softer, sovereign, not nicer, clear, not accommodating, self-possessed, love with a backbone, compassion with discernment, empathy with self-respect, and that combination is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. Your breaking point was your breakthrough. Your sensitivity is your superpower, and now that you wield it consciously, you're unstoppable.